Part-time senator and full-time TikToker Fatima Payman is upset that people weren't just as outraged over the arson of a bus belonging to an Islamic school in Adelaide as they were about the firebombing of a synagogue in Melbourne. Here's her TikTok.
Why the double standard? Anti-Semitism is condemned as it should be, but Islamophobia, it's ignored, downplayed or dismissed. This government says it stands against hate, but clearly not all hate is treated equally.
And this instance, that every condemnation of anti-Semitism must be matched by a condemnation of Islamophobia, even when none exists, is just so tiresome and, frankly, just so dishonest, James.
So she was upset about this bus that was set on fire in Adelaide.
Yes.
She neglects to mention that the bus was barely identifiable as belonging to an Islamic school. If you didn't know the acronym, you would have no idea. And it was a very small print on the side door of the bus. Second, it was parked outside a private residence where it was not normally parked, so no one would have known it was there. And the fire occurred at midnight. Now, the driver of the bus, Errol Kosh, told the Adelaide Advertiser he thought it was a completely opportunistic crime. It was not targeted. The school themselves said they didn't believe it was targeted. But an imam said, gee, lucky there were no children on board. The fire was at midnight. Of course there were no children on board. You know, there's that old moving pictures song, What About Me?
Yes.
It isn't fair.
Yeah.
I've had enough now. I want my share. Fatima Payman strikes me as someone who that must be on repeat with Spotify for her.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's not enough for her to simply say what happened at the Melbourne synagogue was disgraceful. We recognise the upset that must have caused. She can't acknowledge that without having something of her own to feel victimised about and to claim sympathy. And that's one of the reasons why the division keeps going.
Exactly. But we've seen this from the very beginning, haven't we?
have.
Since October 7. You'll remember that Labor announced an anti-Semitism envoy. And at the very same day, on the very same day, in the same breath, they also announced an envoy for Islamophobia when there was only one, as we know, James, that was occurring in this country. But this is a narrative we've heard time and time again, and I'm finding more, and aside from Fatima Payman, Labor MPs just can't bring themselves to say anti-Semitism. This is anti-Semitism. We need to shut down anti-Semitism. In the same breath, they've always got to bring Islamophobia into it. Even, it was only a few days ago, Ed Husick was on Sky News, and it was the same deal. He was being asked by one of our hosts about the awful firebombing of the synagogue in Melbourne, condemn that. But at the same time, he's got to bring Islamophobia into this. So it is sad that we're at a stage where the politics of Western Sydney is being put ahead of our values. So Labor, Fatima Payman, it's all about our values being sold for votes.
And we should be clear, we're not saying that there isn't abuse directed towards the Muslim community. Of course that happens, and it should be condemned whenever it does. But to say that's of equal problem right now as anti-Semitism is just a fantasy.
Well, there was a terror attack.
And to be honest, it's kind of offensive.
Yeah, there was a terror attack. There was a terror attack on a synagogue in this country. That is a problem.
With people in the building when the firebombing occurred, as occurred to a bus at midnight, parked outside a private residence that was barely identifiable.
Exactly.